Good morning. I'm Fia Arbelize. I'll admit, when I figured out I was going to be giving Ava's introduction, I was stumped. How was I supposed to introduce this fan favorite in just 1 minute? So I did what anyone would do, and I turned to Google. Turns out, if you Google the name Ava, you'll learn that it is derived from the Greek words living one. And Ava is the poster child for someone full of life. She brightens up every room she enters. Her laugh is contagious, her words deliberate and kind, and her work admirable. She never complains, always puts in her full effort, and is someone all the seniors admire. When I asked her friends how they would describe her, they used the words kind, hardworking, and selfless over and over again, and that about perfectly sums Ava up. Ava, there is no one we'd rather have as our senior class vice president than you. I am so incredibly lucky to know you, and this class of 63 just wouldn't be the same without you in it. So everyone, please put your hands together for the one, the only, Ava Ogbeide.
Uncrustables, the classic crustless peanut butter and jelly sandwich beloved by children across America. Most people that I talk to love this sandwich and are often shocked and sometimes even offended when I tell them that I absolutely hate them. But as they say, there's always a reason for everything, so today I'm going to tell you the reason why I absolutely hate Uncrustables peanut butter and grape jelly sandwiches. Throughout my entire childhood, I would go to lunch and watch as my classmates unpacked their lunch boxes. The soft, pillowy sandwich would inevitably appear in at least one of their hands. I always envied them and their pre-wrapped packets of goodness because in my health-conscious Nigerian household, we simply didn't buy Uncrustables. We didn't buy Lunchables, Doritos, Rice Krispie treats, fruit snacks, Goldfish, or any other classic American snacks for that matter. Instead, my mom would make us home-cooked meals, including but not limited to beef and tomato stew, meat pies, and jollof rice. Because of these menu items, lunch was simply the worst part of the school day for me. I would always dread opening my thermos because I knew that the smell of heavily seasoned tomato stew would result in some kid announcing to the entire cafeteria that something smelled weird. This happened on multiple occasions, and as a reserved 11-year-old, it was the last thing that I wanted. I genuinely liked the food that my mom packed for me, but I didn't want people to know that I ate it because it was so different from theirs. There were some days that I completely skipped lunch because I was so ashamed of the food in my lunchbox. Every day, I hoped and prayed that my parents would change, that they would just give in and buy a box of Uncrustables so that I could have the same lunch as everyone else. I finally got the opportunity to try the famous sandwich for the first time around 5th grade. There was a field trip coming up, and our parents had to choose what we'd have for lunch, either a home-packed lunch or a school lunch consisting of an Uncrustable sandwich and other snacks that my mother would have never spent her hard-earned money on. I begged her for days to let me have the school lunch. She finally caved, but only after I argued, cried, and guilt-tripped her. Sorry, Mom. At last, God had answered my prayers. I was finally set to try the famous PB&J sandwich. The day of the field trip arrived. As we went through our morning activities, lunch crept closer and closer. For the first time in my life, I was actually looking forward to lunchtime. We sat outside at old picnic tables, and our teachers began to pass out the packed school lunch. I grabbed a brown paper bag and tore it open like I hadn't eaten in days. There, sitting in front of me, was a peanut butter and jelly Uncrustables, along with a bag of Cheetos, yogurt, and an apple. I looked around the table. Everyone around me had the same lunch as I did, and for the first time ever, I didn't feel different from anyone else. I opened up the packet and took a bite of the sandwich. I chewed. It was cold. The peanut butter and jelly stuck to the inside of my mouth. I swallowed. A feeling of nausea came over me. I quickly placed the sandwich down and rushed over to the bathroom, but I didn't make it. I threw up all over myself in front of the entire 5th grade. At that moment, I realized that a thermos of my mom's fried plantains was much better than that nasty sandwich. I was absolutely humiliated and swore to never look at an Uncrustables ever again. In fact, I was and still am so ashamed of my actions that the first time I told my mom the truth about why I hate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches was 7 years later, last week when I was writing this speech, to be exact. I feel like I learned two important things that fateful day. The first is that I absolutely hate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and the second is that trying to change who you are does more harm to you than good to the people around you. Accepting every part of who you are is the most liberating experience, and I only wish I'd experienced it sooner. After my Uncrustables-induced epiphany, I feel like everything else fell into place. I stopped trying to erase my thick, natural curls with perms and texturizers, and stopped being ashamed of wearing cornrows and braids. I began to appreciate things that I used to be embarrassed about, like my last name, my dad's accent, and properly seasoned food. The shy and awkward little girl who would dream of having long, straight hair and normal foods to bring to lunch is gone, and now I stand in her place. I think she would be proud that she ended up embracing both her Nigerian roots and American identity, because I certainly am. Two seemingly different things can be true and good at the same time. It just took me throwing up a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to realize it. To my family, thank you for the continuous love and support you have shown me throughout the years. And to the one and only class of 2023, even though I've never been at the same school for over 3 years, I've never been good at leaving people or places that I have grown to know and love, so leaving you all in May will be no exception. Thank you all for giving this former Hutchinson girl a chance. I wouldn't have grown into the person I am today without each one of you. Thank you.